Welcome to the W2W Review. I am the Oakland Knight, and yes, this is Thursday. This is the second day of our press conference coverage here on the Will to Win Review. And yes, once again, I am running solo. Once again, my partner in crime, Pirate, is really putting in all the work, man. He's really putting in all of his efforts into the Will to Win broadcast, preseason special that will be dropping Friday evening. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. We'll be running the promo once again at our break. To kick things off, to get things started today, I want to cover what Bill Musgrave had to say first. First and foremost, Bill Musgrave, well, what a character, right? I mean, this guy has a ton of energy up there on the podium. We wonder sometimes why our offense is so flat. No, in all realness, he's been sitting up in the press box, so maybe the excitement down on the field's too much for him. I don't know. Sometimes he's very hard to listen to. But needless to say, this press conference to me was a lot of the same. It was a lot of the same things that we've been talking about. Keeping things close to the chest. He was asked a lot of questions about, the difference between, what Jack had said about, if we're going to run the ball, we need to run the ball whether or not there's 8 people in the box or not. And he was like, well, yeah, I mean, we have to work on our technique and we got to work. So I think that has been the major factor as we sit here now and we look at it. The major factor being the fact that they want to work on technique. So that's why we're seeing a lot of the same vanilla plays. They're not too concerned about showing their hand and their offensive plays, which means, he mentioned practice a lot too. If you go back and you listen to it, he talks about evaluating the talent at practice. So it's something that I had said at the beginning of the week, that I believe that they're doing a lot of this evaluations at practice, which, to each their own. I'm putting my whole faith into this coaching staff. For one, I have no choice. I mean, it is the coaching staff. It's not going to change between now and week 1. So there's really no sense to overthink things, I guess, in some aspects. But, it's not going to stop me from speaking my mind about what I see or even what I believe. And I personally believe that this team could do a better job evaluating the talent. The play calling, I'm okay with. Like I said, I mean, this is a returning unit. He talked about that. He talked about Derek Carr being in his second year. He talked a lot about, him having more command of the offense and being able to make changes and see things. And, at this point, it's just about chemistry, consistency, building that continuity with his wide receivers and especially his offensive line. That was the other thing that he said that I thought was key. We spend so much time talking about Derek Carr and worrying about what Derek's going to do in his third year. But it was interesting for him to make the note that Rodney Hudson is in his second year in the system too, and his second year with Derek Carr. So we thought what we saw last season was good. There's nothing but potential for this whole offense to really click once we start getting going. Like I said, my only issues moving forward at this point in time, preseason, is I just feel like, the chemistry, would be at a better place if we ran a little bit more plays and not the same old screens and draw plays. But then again, that's why they get paid the big bucks. I've said that before, and I'm just going to just allow them to do their thing. Now, another interesting thing that Bill Musgrave mentioned in his press conference, which has been a really big hot topic as of late, is one Jalen Richard. Now, I'm getting his name right finally. His name is Jalen Richard. And if you guys read the comment section in the W2W review yesterday, I wanted to make sure that I put it out there that I understood that I butchered Johnny Holton's name about 1 million times in that video. I kept saying Holland, so to everybody that caught on to that, yes, I do understand the difference. And we did used to have a Holland on this wide receiver on this team, so I will say that. But yes, I know the difference between Johnny Holton and Johnny Holland. So it was Holton, but they were talking about Jalen Richard, and this guy's getting so much praise in camp. It's almost scary. I mean, if for a team that likes to keep things close to their chest and really not let a lot of things out, the praise this man is getting is pretty scary. So we're going to cover that in the second segment a bit more. But, he brought it up. It's straight out of the offensive coordinator's mouth about how much they really like this kid. So moving forward, man, I really believe it's something that we need to think about before we push that kid too far, with injuries and stuff. But the running back position in general as a whole is looking deeper and deeper. I mean, if this kid comes out and runs and lives up to the hype, there's a lot of decision making that's going on. I'm already starting to write down certain names, and it's been pretty easy. I started with the offense, so I pretty much wrote the offense out. I already know primarily what the starting core is going to be, with the exception of that running back slot. So that's something to look forward to here in a few weeks as me and Pirates start to look at this roster. We're going to go to 75 after this game, so it'll be a lot easier going from 75 to 53 and then from 90 to 53. So that being said, I want to go ahead and jump right into excuse me. I'm going to go ahead and jump right into Ken Norton's press conference. Now, Ken Norton, wow, what a different energy level. That's the first thing right off the top. The energy level when Ken Norton took the podium versus Bill Musgrave was obviously noticeable. And, the cool thing about Ken Norton's press conference was he talked and covered a lot of things that I covered on Tuesday, on Defensive Tuesday. And, why is that important? It just lets me know that I'm not crazy, I guess. That I do see things and view things in certain ways that I understand. I'm starting to understand these coaches a little bit. Am I fully in their head? Do I know everything? No. But at the same time, he really spent a lot of time talking about the technique of the game. He talked a lot in references, by the way. He didn't call nobody out, but I'm just translating what he said to what I said on Tuesday. He was basically talking about getting off blocks. It's one thing to be where you're supposed to be in the play, but you can't get off your block, then that's an issue. And he was, who he was talking about, and it's in reference to Heaney, and that he was in the right spot, but he's got to get off those blocks. And then he also mentioned about people performing and being able to take a look at certain players, which is another thing that I mentioned, is that they've done a good job of running sub packages in here so we can look at all these players. But he also mentioned about being able to fit in these certain spots, and then again I believe he was talking about Ellis. So I'm really expecting either a totally different looking front this Saturday, or I do expect Big Dan Williams to be back in the starting lineup, right where he's supposed to be, manning that middle of that defensive line, so he could free up these linebackers to make plays. He really covered a lot of what we've been talking about, subbing people in and out, putting different people in different positions. And one of the other big key things that Ken Norton talked about that I wanted to touch base on is he talked about the talent on this football team. Now, it's one thing to not really get a grasp or an understanding of each player in exactly the way that he sees it fitting, but it's another thing to what I'm trying to get at here, guys, is when you look at guys like Calhoun, Cowser, Latham, I would probably pick those three right off the top. These guys have showed tremendous talent and tremendous upside, that we have to decipher those three guys. And then you got to factor guys in like Autry, Mario Edwards Jr., Stacy McGee. I'm trying to think of the other one, Leon Orr. So there's a lot of these guys. We're not going to be able to keep all these football players. And it's not so much that it's a scary thing. It's just making sure that you get and make the right decision, because a few years ago it would be pretty simple. I mean, we didn't have this kind of problem. There wasn't as much talent on the field. So we could easily just pick out the players that we feel were going to be the better fit. You could cut some of these younger rookies, put them on the practice squad, and just hope that they could develop. I mean, we did that with a lot of these guys in the past, in just recent past. But now, as we sit here and I'm looking at this team, I don't see a Calhoun making it to the practice squad. I don't see a James Cowser already, showing what he's shown, making it to the practice squad. And even if they were lucky, or I should say we were lucky enough to get them on the practice squad, the minute another team has an injury or a setback to one of their defensive linemen or outside linebackers, these guys are plucked. I mean, I think that sure, for Cowser has shown the ability to be a situational guy, a special teams guy. So I don't see him doing practice squad this season. I really don't. I think if we let a guy like Cowser walk, he's going to walk right onto another roster. He won't even make it. And that's the key. If teams can make that decision before they hit the practice squad, they don't even have to put him on the active roster. So, once they hit practice squad, then and once they pick him, they want him, and they have to put him on the active roster. So, the biggest names I think to me that we need to look out for in that scenario would be Latham, would be Cowser, and would be Calhoun. Although I do believe that Calhoun makes this football team as well, and we're going to get into that after the break as well. So, Ken Norton, once again, I love his energy. If anybody's going to slip at that podium, I think it would be Ken Norton, because you could see his energy really start to come out. He talked a lot about Corey James. He said he was a good football player. He mentioned a lot of these guys. They're good football players, and it's true. And that's the kind of character and the kind of talent we've been trying to bring in here. But they were asking him basically, is it going to be tough to make cuts? And he said it's always tough to make cuts, but he's really seen the competition kick up in camp. He's seen it on the field during the games. And he said, excuse me, then more than some years past, that this is a tougher decision-making process, because there is a lot of talent on this football team. And I guess credit to Reggie, once again, for a lot of these guys that we're seeing, especially on the defensive side of the ball. If you look at it, we got Jihad Ward, and we got Shalik Calhoun, and we got Carlos Joseph, all 1, 2, and 3 picks that are not, 2 are starting. 1 is in the second man rotation and is learning. He'll probably be a situational guy, but they're making an impact. Some bigger than others, but they're making an impact. And then you got guys like Latham, who's an undrafted free agent, who's also making an impact on this football team. So once again, Reggie's finding the talent. The scary part is deciphering what they're doing in preseason and how they fit the system and practice in the field rooms, and understanding that they are rookies. So I don't necessarily want to bring these guys in. These guys have to be depth pieces to me, with the exception of 2, I would say. I believe that Carlos Joseph and Jihad Ward are starters. I believe that they have that skill set. It's yet to be seen how much Jihad Ward will be used, but there's going to be such a big rotation, I believe, there that will be fine. But guys like Latham, guys like Cowser, and guys like Calhoun would be more special teams depth pieces. You don't want, our whole goal is to get young and grow and develop players, but we have to be very careful on how fast and how much we implement this into the system, and not put too many young minds out there, because mistakes tend to happen, and the mistakes will happen. So I want us to be more on the protective side. So it was, all in all, I think they were fair press conferences. I think all the press conferences this week were, in preseason mode, and that's just the way. I mean, you don't get a ton of information anyway. Like I say, they cover the perimeter. It's up to us to make up our own opinions and feel the inside of that perimeter, and then just to see and wait and see how it all pans out. But all in all, the gist of what we got from it was, the bottom line is, it's preseason. There's not going to be a lot of scheming. They're going to have to tiptoe around this football game, but there's still a lot of things that we can work on in techniques and our basic concepts. So I expect that to grow with our starters, and then I really want to see them maybe implement more young people. That's what I've been preaching all week, and that's what I'm going to continue to preach. All right, so we're going to go to break. We're going to run our promo once again, and when we get back, we're going to cover some things about the players. There's a few players I picked out that I want to talk about, a few on offense and a few on defense. So we'll get into that right after the break. Stay tuned. All right, welcome back to the W2W review. All right, guys, I want to get into a little something. I want to talk to you guys a little bit about tomorrow night's broadcast here on The Will to Win. It's going to be our pregame program. So what we want to try to implement now, guys, is just a little bit different of a format as we start heading into the regular season. There's an old saying that we should know thy enemy. So we thought it would be a good idea
to not only, we talk about our football team all week, daily, here on a daily basis in the WTW Review. We try to cover all the top stories of our football teams. So, we thought it would be good to start bringing in, podcasters, video makers from other teams that we're facing that week to kind of get a look into who we're facing. We could easily start reading some reports and start trying to break down those teams ourselves, but, what a great idea to actually bring in somebody that's just as passionate about their team as we are ours and analyzes their team the way that we analyze our team and kind of get another look, an inside look, and we're trying to find unbiased people, and this guy is unbiased. He's a great guy. He's a great analytical person for the Tennessee Titans. So look forward to that, and stay tuned so you can get to know thy enemy. We'll get a little deeper look at Mariota, DeMarco Murray, Derrick Henry, and the boys over there and what they're up to, so we could kind of see how our team is going to match up and fit into that role. All right, so with that being said, I wanted to get in, like I said, and talk about certain players, especially with Bill Musgrave. So we're going to start with the player that Bill Musgrave was kind of hinting to, or he was asked about. And it's not just Bill Musgrave. This guy has been making a name for himself for so long now. I don't know where the hype's coming from because we don't get to see a lot of the footage, but one Jalen Richard is actually really, really out there making a name for himself. He's been, the hype around this kid is insane. They interviewed him yesterday, and I liked his approach. I liked the fact that he came off really humbled, and he understood. He just talked about the players, giving him the confidence to come out there and work hard every day. He said he understood, and I believe him, that he knows he has to go do it out there on the field and really earn his stripes. But, man, is it just me, or is this running back core really starting to gain momentum, especially youth-wise? Regardless of how you feel about Latavius Murray is going to be starting week 1 in New Orleans. It's just the way it's going to be. He understands the offense. He's going to make Carr feel the most comfortable back there in pass protections. So just expect that. But after that, maybe DeAndre Washington is not as much of a lock as we thought. This guy is being overshadowed by an undrafted free agent named Jalen Richard. So that's, watching those two guys run now Saturday, it's going to be off the hook. They should be running hard because the competition has to be real deep there. But then where does that leave GA3? A lot of us have been pumping up GA3, and I will be the first one to admit I've been pumping him up too. But is it going to come down to a certain kind of style they're looking for? Because these guys are used to working with some of these smaller, shifty backs. Could we run with a DeAndre Washington and a Jalen Richard behind Latavius Murray? What does that mean for Taiwan Jones? What does that mean for Marcel Reese? How do we actually build off this running back core? And the crazy thing for me is there's so much talk being surrounded by a guy who's primarily doing it in practice, not fully in pads, and he's also had a knee injury and he's missed a few weeks, and people are still ranting and raving about this guy. I cannot wait to see everything that we hear and see it on the field ourselves and see how he measures up. But the question is how much do they believe in this guy, and when are they going to play him? Are they going to play him above Washington? Or are they going to bring him towards the end and maybe save the best for last in Seattle? It's going to be very interesting, guys. As we move forward, it's going to be very interesting. This running back position has become a juggernaut for me. I've been talking a lot about Taiwan Jones possibly being on the bubble, and it's not that I don't like Taiwan Jones. I think Taiwan Jones is amazing. I think Taiwan Jones is a great running back. I guess my only fear would be the fact that, he's getting up there in age. He's been injury prone. And we're paying him a significant amount of money, and the money that we basically paid him was for special teams, and that's where I find it interesting with all these guys, because they all bring some type of special teams attribute. Both Washington and Atkinson can do it in the kick return game, and we've already seen Atkinson run down and make some tackles on special team as well. So Atkinson is a very deep special teams player, which has always intrigued the Raiders, and it intrigues me more this year, seeing the way that he's able to run Plus, what he brings on special teams, these are the kind of guys you want, especially on special teams. Now, we haven't seen much from Jalen Richard. Are they going to use him in the kick game? Are they going to use him in the punt game? You know, what is it that he's showing all this excitement for? What has he got everybody up in arms? This kid's making plays, exciting plays every day at practice, they said. So I'm really intrigued to see how this all shapes out. And that running back group, guys, is it's coming down to an end. After this game, we're going down to 75, so we're getting closer to that 53. We'll have a better idea of what we're looking at, and I think that they're going to have to take these running backs, a little bit more seriously now, and really start to piece this thing together. And maybe that's what they've been waiting for. They've been waiting for their boy Richard. He's definitely the coach's favorite at this point. Does that mean he's their favorite over Washington? Not necessarily. We don't really know, but all I know is that every time I go and check all the reports and all the sites, it's Jalen Richard's name. I think that's the way he says it. It's Jalen Richard's name that's all over the place. So, it's something that we definitely have to sit there and take into consideration, that this guy, if he comes as advertised, he's really going to shake up the running back group. And it's going to probably be a little bit harder to judge. Like I said, Marcel Reese is suspended for 4 games, so you could actually extend one of these players for 4 games and give them more opportunities in the regular season before making that decision. But the Raiders have a lot of big decisions to make. It's going to be interesting moving forward, guys, and that's the exciting thing to me, is seeing how this is all going to shape out, because this is the one position on the offensive side of the ball that desperately needs to be fixed. We need to develop a running game. And when I say we need to develop a running game, I'm not even saying that this team needs to be a run-first offense. It just needs to be a consistent, hard-running, productive offensive, running attack, because we have not seen that play action from Carr, and I swear to you guys, I am dying to see a ton of play action from Carr. It's really going to open up the field. It's going to give him opportunities to hit these receivers down the field, in go routes or what have you. So that being said, let's keep a close eye on that running back position. I think it's going to be interesting moving forward. Defensively, on the defensive side of the ball, Ken Norton talked a lot about the talent on this football team, and that it's going to be a little bit harder this year to make some of these cuts. And the only thing that scares me about what I see about our defense and all the young talent that we have is just that. It's pretty young. We're trying to make a big run here. And I think we got enough key players that we're going to be okay. But, Malcolm Smith, Bruce Irvin, and Khalil Mack now coming into his 3rd year, and Dan Williams are solid guys. There's plenty. We got Reggie Nelson, we got Sean Smith, but we're expecting a lot from some young players like Jahad Ward, James Cowser, Shalik Calhoun, Latham. These guys, they're earning a name for themselves. And when I start going through the roster and start putting together my rough draft anyway of what the 53-man roster looks like, there's room for all those guys I mentioned. So Latham, Jahad Ward, Shalik Calhoun, James Cowser, all these guys have a spot on this football team. We could actually make it work. The concern would be they're all young. But then again, this defensive line, I think guys like Latham and Ward are in a good position because, Mario Edwards Jr. will be back. They got Bruce Irvin, Khalil Mack, Dan Williams, Justin Jelly Ellis. There's enough veterans surrounding them that we could actually just really zone in on what they do very well. That's why I think they probably have the best chance there. When you start sliding back into Cowser and Calhoun, once again, we talk a lot about these guys. I think Cowser really shows his skill set. He's all over the place. I believe he has a really good shot of making this roster. And, if he starts showing up more on special teams, you can almost pencil him in right now. Calhoun, being the fact that he's a 3rd-round pick, I believe that, as a situational pass guy and a special teamer, there'll be a spot for him here too. So all these guys, and if you look at that, man, if you really look at what we've been talking about today, you take out Jahad Ward and you take out Shalik Calhoun, and you just talk about guys like I'm losing my thought again. Jalen Richard, Latham, Cowser, all undrafted free agents. So once again, Reggie seems to find 1 or 2 of these guys a year, and this year, there's 3 guys that we're talking about, possibly 4 if you want to put in there If you want to put in Johnny Holton in there too. So that's four players that could actually become key components on this football team this year. Now, when I say key components, I'm not talking 4-down guys. I'm talking on special teams and come into their situational play. So whether it's Jalen Richard and Holton returning kicks and punts, or whether it's guys like Kauser, making tackles, running down the field on special teams, and then coming down and getting a few sacks here and there, as he rushes the passer on passing downs. And Latham constantly being part of that rotation, helping out Edwards Jr. and Jihad Ward in the middle, giving them breathers, or maybe even helping Justin Jelly Ellis and being his replacement. There's so many things going on here, so many opportunities for these young guys. It's quite amazing. It just shows you how far we've really come. So when other fan bases ask you, why do you think your Raiders even have a chance this year? What makes you think it's different? It's pure talent mixed with great coaching. And I really believe, especially in our defensive system, I'm waiting to see if there's been enough changes to our offensive system. But everything is pointing to the signs. As long as we can develop a running game, I think we're going to be way more explosive on offense. If we develop the middle of that pass rush in the middle of our defensive line, we've already shored up our secondary. Yes, we might have some questions in the middle of our linebacking core, but make no mistake about it, this team is really, as we get closer and closer to regular season, we could look at the energy up and down. We could look at some of the missed tackling. We could look at some of the missed assignments, not being able to get off their blocks. We could look at all that stuff. But like we've been saying, a lot of you said in the comment section, I've been repeating it here on the W2W review, it's only preseason. There's no reason for us to overly stress out. So like I said, as we get closer to kickoff, this team, you're starting to see it slowly come together, and it's starting to develop. And there's a lot of young talent. You could either take that as a positive or a negative. I'm taking it more as a positive, because the more talent that we find in to start replenishing our depth and having options as we head into next year and the year after that, when we have to start signing some big contracts to some pretty big players, Derek Carr, Khalil Mack, eventually Amari Cooper's contract's going to be up. We got all this young talent around us, and we have a scouting department ran by a man, our general manager, Reggie McKenzie, that understands what kind of players he's looking for. And he's also getting on the same page for the guy who's writing the shopping list, which is Jack Del Rio. The tandem is working great. The coaching has been, above average, at least at this point we could say. And the players are young, hungry, and talented. It's a winning combination. So you tell them that's why we feel like this is the year. Now, anybody that wants to run around and scream Super Bowl, more power to you. From my standpoint, I ain't going to be screaming Super Bowl. I might not, the best that I would do is maybe give us a playoff win. That's where I'm at this point. With not too much more information than that, I do believe that we could sneak into the playoffs as a wild card, and I do believe that we could win that wild card game. So that is a step in the right direction, and that's all we're looking for is positivity year in and year out. We are on our way. We are not messing around. The Raiders are for real. We're only a few weeks away from kickoff, guys. So, you just stay pumped up, stay excited. That's all the time I'm going to have for today. I want to thank you guys once again for tuning into the W2W review, and want to remind you that tomorrow evening we'll be kicking off our Will to Win broadcast pregame special with special guests from the Titans organization, not from the organization itself, but a podcaster who's going to help break down his team and get us a better understanding of what we're looking at heading into this week's matchup and is in week 3, right? So stay tuned for that. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all at The Will to Win. And if you have any questions and concerns, please email us at thewtw@gmail.com. That is thewtw@gmail.com. All right, guys, till tomorrow night, and right after the game, I'm the Oakland Knight, and you stay Raider strong.
Hey there, I'm Jason Smith, also known as the Oakland Knight. We'd like to thank you for watching the Will to Win broadcast here on YouTube. And if you would like to stay up to date for more content like this, go ahead and hit the subscribe button down below. Or you could click any one of the videos on the side to watch more great videos. Thank you once again, and stay Raider strong.